Hey everybody, Tom from How to Wrangler here. It's been a while since I made a video. I've got a lot of changes in my life. I got a kid, I got my own business now, I moved. So I just wanted to jump back in here and show you a quick video on how to change out your rear brake pads. Mine have gone, and they've actually gone so bad that I've ground down my rotors. So I'm going to do the rotors as well. Part of this is also going to be how to tighten your emergency brake. So we can do that while we're in there. Let's dive right in. Okay, after you take off the wheel, your first step, you're going to need a 13 millimeter socket wrench and a 15 millimeter thin wrench. Okay, so on the caliper right here, you're going to loosen these up, and there's a bolt on the outside, and then on the inside is where you need the 15 millimeter thin wrench to hold that in place so you can remove the bolt on the outside. Once you loosen it up, you can hand twist it, pop it off. Same thing on the bottom, down below here, right down here is another one. Once I get in there, I'll back out of the way. And same deal. Loosen that one up. Undo it by hand. And all right. Now, what I'm going to do here is, before I take this off, I'm actually going to show you a shortcut on how to push the caliper back in so that you don't have to do that later on. This thing is called a brake spoon. You pick it up at your local hardware store. Now the caliper's right here. We got to push that back in so when we put the new brake pads on, we have room to fit everything. So what you want to do is take the brake spoon and jam it in so it's pushing on the brake pad. I'm actually going to put these bolts back in place so this doesn't move. So I'm going to take this brake spoon and jam it in here between the brake pad and the caliper, right? And I'm going to be squeezing down the caliper. So as you go like this, you should start to see pushing in like that. You want to get it all the way back in. So then it'll be nice and loose, like that. That'll save you a step later on. Okay, so now that I get the caliper pushed back in, I'm going to take this off, and I'm actually just going to be careful with this hose that's attached to it here. I'm going to rest this up here. Let's see. I can find a good place to do it. If not, I'm going to get a hanger and hang it. Okay, there we go. All right, now we've exposed our nasty old brake pads. We're going to move on to the next step. So for this next step, I've got my breaker bar and an 18 millimeter socket. On the back of the bracket here, you can see there's an 18 millimeter bolt on the bottom and one on the top. So I'm going to use the breaker bar, break the top one there, and then I'll do the rest with a regular socket. See, now the bottom one here, I actually can't get my breaker bar in there, so I'm going to get another wrench. So I'm going to come in here and just use some manpower. All right, that was jammed on there. And once you get them loose, just take them the rest of the way off. Once you've taken that apart, you'll see that you can now get access to your brake pads and see how bad they are. These actually aren't that bad, but we're going to be replacing them. So put that aside. Okay, so our next step is actually removing the rotor, which sometimes you can just pull it off, but mine is stuck. So there's a couple things you can do when your rotor's stuck. First thing we're going to try is hitting it with the hammer and see if we can loosen some stuff up. And if that fails, then we're going to loosen up the parking brake. All right, so what you're going to want to do with the hammer is you're going to want to hit inside the bolts here and a couple taps on the outside and try to break up any rust that might be in there that might be holding this thing in place. And that is jammed on there. Pretty sure that the e-brake is what's stopping it. So now what happens is over time the e-brake actually digs a groove on the inside here. So when you're trying to pull it off, even if your e-brake is loose like mine is, it's still going to grip on the edge and not let you pull the rotor off. So we're going to go behind over here. There's a little a spot that you can access the star wheel to loosen up the e-brake. So let's go back underneath the car there. All right, it's kind of hard to shoot here, but I'm going to show you guys right back here behind the wheel. There's a hole. There's a little rubber plug that looks like this that I just took out. I don't know if you can see that from in there. And then you take your spoon and you reach inside and you're going to push there's a star screw inside, which I'll show you from the other side, and you're going to push it on this is the passenger side, you're going to push it towards the front, okay? That's going to loosen up the e-brake and allow you to take the rotor off. All right, now even after adjusting the e-brake really loose, you still need to hammer this up to loosen it up, and then you should be able to come off. And while I've got this here, you can see this inside ring here. I don't know if you can actually see it on the camera, but that was the little lip that the e-brake was catching on, which was not allowing me to pull it off. But now that we loosen that up, we've got that off, I'm going to take some brake cleaner and spray down this whole area in here. Okay. Now, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see right in here where we were spinning that star screw. So it might make it a little bit easier if you're missing it from behind. It's located right here. Okay? So it's this little screw right here that you're turning. It's up against this spring, and that's what's going to tighten and loosen your e-brake. So once we're all done and get this all put back together, that's how I'm going to tighten it so I can get that real like 3-click and locked e-brake back. All right, now that I got this cleaned up, I'm going to actually spray this down one more time, get some paper towels, wipe it down, make it as clean as I can before we go ahead and put the new rotor on. Okay, so we've got our brand new rotor. Taken out of the plastic here, and what I'm going to do is, mine has a coating on it to protect it from noise and everything. If you have sometimes they come with a film on them, but either way, it's a good idea just to give it a quick spray turn it inside out like I've got it here. Just spray it down, get rid of any protective coating it might have that it was, you know, manufactured with. And then on the outside, flip it and pop it into place. And then spray this side, like so. All right. Okay, our next step, to go back to the bracket and remove the old brake pads, toss them aside, and the clips may come out as well, the old clips. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm going to clean out the grooves in here. I don't have a wire brush. I really wish I do, but I don't have it with me at the house here. So I'm going to kind of use the tool I've got here and a screwdriver just to kind of get any of that rust out that I can. And I'm going to spray it down with the brake cleaner as well and some paper towels and try to get this as cleaned up as I possibly can before we put the new pads in. I just realized I forgot to mention the clips, the metal clips that are, old clips that are in there. Pop those out because your new brake pad should come with new clips. So you can just use a screwdriver or something and just pop them out of there. Don't even worry if you break them. They're probably going to be rusted in there like mine are. And there you go. Okay, so next step. I'm going to take the new pins that we got with our new brake pads and I am going to pop them in here. So you're going to see that it has a high side and a low side, and on the actual bracket itself also has a high side and a low side. So it just kind of clips in there. You hook one side in and push it in, and it's in place like that. Okay, so I'm going to put all 4 of these in, and then we're going to be popping this bracket back on, putting our brake pads on, and moving on. Okay, so now I'm going to use the 18mm bolts again that we took when we removed the bracket, and we're going to put this bracket back on. One item of note, when you're pushing these little silver pins in, make sure that the part that sticks out is on the outside, not on the inside. Okay, so when I'm putting this bracket back on, I'm actually going to crawl up underneath here. Easier to see and not make a mistake and hit the new rotor. So I'm going to tighten this down and just tighten it by hand until I get it on there nice. And I'm going to try to torque these down, but I think with the size of my torque wrench, I can only get to 1. And I believe there's supposed to be 77 pounds of torque. So the bottom one here is the one that I can't really get to because of the sway bar attachment. All right. All right, next step, going to be installing our brake pads. Now, brake pads, you have 2 different ones here. The one for the inside has this extra tab on it, and the one on the outside does not, okay? In case you forget that, besides the fact that you're watching my video, you can always look on the old brake pads and see which one has the mark from the caliper, and that's the one with the tab on it. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start with the outside one so you guys can see it. I'm going to try not to touch the surface of it. And I'm going to grab my brake lubricant, okay? And I'm going to put a little bit on either tab because it's going to be a contact point, and basically any contact point you're going to want to put a little bit of lubricant on. not the face of the brake pad, but on the points that are going to be metal on metal like this. And then you're going to follow the circular shape of it and pop it in. Okay, it can be a little bit difficult to fit them in. I usually go kind of sideways and then twist it, and then it's in. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, on the inside, and we'll have our brake pads in place. Okay, now I've got both brake pads in. The final thing you want to do with the brake lubricant is you want to put a little bit on the outside of each of the new brake pads, because again, that's going to be a contact point, and that's going to help you avoid any squeaking or grinding with the metal parts moving together. Okay. All right. And now, because we've already got our caliper pushed in, like I said from earlier, it's going to save us a step here. We're going to slide it back in place, push these push pins back in, like that, and let's lock this down. So again, here you're going to need your 13mm socket and a 15mm thin wrench to hold that bolt in place. Try not to get in the camera's view, but I kind of have to. All right. Now these get tightened down. I believe it's 22 pounds, and once again, I believe I can do only one. I can only reach one. Okay. Actually, no, I think on these I could reach both. It's just a little bit difficult to get my torque wrench in there. Let me go grab that. Okay, now that we've got everything back in place, I give it one quick spray down with the brake cleaner. I'm gonna put the wheel back on. Go. Okay. So I'm going to hand tighten down all these bolts, and then we're going to drop the Jeep back down. Actually, I apologize. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to hand tighten everything down, and then I'm going to retighten the emergency brake by going back underneath like I showed you before, but going the opposite direction and then testing it. I'm going to do it on both sides to tighten back up the e-brake so you can actually use it again.